Welcome to my class, dear students. Today I am going to discuss with you Milton's Paradise Lost. This lecture will focus on invocation of Paradise Lost. Our university exam often has a question, write a critical appreciation of Milton's invocation to Paradise Lost. Hence, it is of absolute importance that we understand and know the content of the lines in Milton's Invocation to Paradise Lost. First point, what is invocation? Where is it located? We all know in 1667, when Milton published Paradise Lost, it was spread over 10 books, and the first book begins with the invocation. The first book, its first 26 lines, is known as the Invocation to Paradise Lost. We all must be knowing by now that John Milton's Paradise Lost was his dream work, his dream design, and therefore a lot of research, lot of study, lot of planning went behind, and a lot of brainstorming and decision making was also behind the creation of this beautiful and complicated epic. In Book 1, Milton begins with the argument. In the argument, he introduces the subject. He says, and I read from the text, this first book proposes, first in brief, the whole subject, man's disobedience, and the loss thereupon of paradise, wherein he was placed, then touches the prime cause of his fall, the serpent, or rather Satan in the serpent, who, revolting from God and drawing to his side many legions of angels, was by the command of God driven out of heaven with all his crew to the great deep. Which action passed over, the poem hastes into the midst of things, presenting Satan with his angels now fallen into hell, described here, not in the center, for heaven and earth may be supposed as yet not made, certainly not yet accursed, but in a place of utter darkness, fitliest called chaos. Here Satan with his angels lying on the burning lake, thunderstruck and astonished, after a certain space recovers as from confusion, calls up him who next in order and dignity lay by him. They confer of their miserable fall. Satan awakens all his legions, who lay till then in the same manner confounded. They rise, their numbers, array of battle, their chief leaders named, according to the idols known afterwards in Canaan and the countries adjoining. To these Satan directs his speech, comforts them with the hope of yet regaining heaven, but tells them, lastly, of a new world and new kind of creature to be created, according to an ancient prophecy or report in heaven. For that angels were long before this visible creation was the opinion of many ancient fathers. To find out the truth of this prophecy and what to determine thereon, he refers to a full council. What his associates thence attempt. Pandemonium is the palace of Satan, rises, suddenly built out of the deep. The infernal peers there sit in council. And then began the invocation of Milton's Paradise Lost. Of man's first disobedience and the fruit of that forbidden tree, whose mortal taste brought death into the world and all our woe. Let us stop here and try to understand what mammoth information Milton has compressed in 3 small lines. Of man's first disobedience. So Milton is beginning his epic, The Paradise Lost, with the very subject of his epic. What is the subject of the epic? Man's first disobedience. And that is the first few words of invocation, of man's first disobedience. The subject and theme of the epic is stated in the very first line. And the fruit of that forbidden tree. What is the fruit of the forbidden tree? What is the forbidden tree? As we know from Genesis, that the apple tree in paradise, in the Garden of Eden, was the forbidden tree. God, the Father, asked Adam not to eat the fruit of this forbidden tree. And he was strictly prohibited from tasting the fruit of this apple tree. And that is the soft, vulnerable point where Satan challenged him. Satan incited Eve to request Adam to eat the fruit of the forbidden tree. And eating the fruit of this forbidden tree is the act of disobeying the Father, the God, the creator of Adam, the creator of mankind, the creator of first man. What happened with the eating of this fruit? With the eating of the fruit of this forbidden tree, Adam and mankind got knowledge. With knowledge came sorrow. In the Garden of Eden, they were immortal. Their happiness was also immortal. But they were expelled from that bliss when they disobeyed and ate the fruit of the forbidden tree. And thus they brought upon themselves a world of sorrow, a world where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, where youth dies and grows pale, and sorrow is the ultimate fate of mankind. So the mortal taste is the taste that makes Adam and his progenies mortal. They were immortal in heaven. Heaven is an immortal place. Everyone in paradise is immortal. But when expelled from heaven, mankind became mortal. Mankind learnt decay and death and end. And thus loss and sorrow became the constant companion of mankind. So the mortal taste of this forbidden apple tree brought death into the world. Previously, death was not there in this world. And all our woe, as I explained, the woe, the misery, the sadness, the sorrow, everything started with the loss of this status, the prelapsarian blissful status. Till one greater man restore us. So Milton is rounding up, because the story, the epic, is not just about the loss, but also restoration of the loss, repairing the loss, because until and unless we talk about the positive, the overcome, our story of misery does not come to an end. The readers will not be satisfied, nor our human mind will be satisfied accepting that the destiny is dark. So, till one greater man. Who is this greater man? Of course, this greater man is the Son of God, another Son of God, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is one greater man. What did he do? Restore us and regain the blissful seat. The blissful seat. What is the process of regaining the blissful seat? The process of regaining the blissful seat is the lessons of Jesus Christ, and the blissful seat is the undecaying state of happiness, the heavenly happiness itself. Next line, I'm moving on to sing heavenly muse. For the first time here we see that Milton is naming, addressing these lines to an entity. What is the identity of this entity? This entity is the muse. This entity is the supernatural power that will help Milton, that will help the writer of the epic to properly complete the task, and that is what Milton is expressing in the following lines that I'll be discussing in his precise and deep way. Let us read. Sing heavenly muse that on the secret top of Oreb or of Sinai didst inspire that shepherd who first taught the chosen seed. Now let us stop here. The line does not end here. If we follow a grammatical line, we will first see the full stop at first is coming at line number 18, and then again at the end of line number 26. So, sing heavenly muse that on the secret top of Oreb Now, if you look at the annotation, I would always suggest that you look at the annotation and enrich your writing. I'm reading from the annotation itself. What is Oreb and what is Sinai? These references to biblical places, to Hebrew texts, are one of the greatest assets of Paradise Lost. We gain so much cultural knowledge, we gain so much diachronic traveling through time into the deepest recesses of cultural histories. God revealed himself to Moses, the shepherd, on Mount Horeb, and God gave him the law on Mount Sinai. All these lines are found in Exodus. If you look at the biblical book of Genesis, if you look at the biblical book of Exodus, there as it is nice stories to read, you will see these lines are written over there. Milton sees himself emulating the shepherd, prophet, poet role of Moses. So this heavenly muse is Jehovah. This heavenly muse is God. And Milton here is Moses looking at the fire in the bush from where Jehovah manifested himself to give him the 10 commandments. Well, it's not fully true, but an analogy is being drawn in these lines to this biblical occasion. Milton is looking for the command of the muse, the guidance of the muse, and the identity of the muse is sought in three figures from myths, from religion, and these lines are testifying to that. That shepherd who first taught the chosen seed, that shepherd is Moses at Horeb. That denotes a quiet familiarity between the poet and his contemporary readers. Moses kept the flock of Jethro, says Exodus, and became the leader or shepherd of the Israelites. That who first taught the chosen seed. Who are the chosen seed? The chosen seed are the Israelites whom Moses taught. Chosen by who? Chosen by God himself. The Puritan saw themselves as latter-day Israelites, God's second chosen people. In the beginning, how heavens and earth. So sing of what? Sing of how in the beginning. Sing from start to end. Now Milton moves on to the beginning. Sing about what? How in the beginning. In the beginning, as we know from Genesis, God created heaven and the earth. So in the beginning, how the heavens and earth arose out of chaos. These lines are simply matters that you find in Genesis, universally known to every Christian, every literate reader also. So the heavens, different from heaven where God dwells, it denotes the sky of the universe with its stars and planets. So how the heavens and earth rose out of chaos? Then comes a second option, or if Zion Hill delight thee more, goes to start the second imagery. What is Zion Hill? Jerusalem was built on Mount Zion, the place of oracular pronouncements, and poetry here, as the annotation I'm reading from suggests, poetry here is once again seen as a prophecy. Or if Zion Hill delight thee more, and Siloah's brook that flowed fast by the oracle of God. Mythical places, biblical places. Siloah, a spring near Calvary around Mount Zion. Zion Hill and Siloah's brook thus became the Judeo-Christian equivalent for the pagan spring, Agapipe, rising from beneath the altar of Zeus on Mount Helicon, and was the haunt of Greek muses. The dwelling place of heavenly muse is superior in holiness to the Greek counterpart. So you see two cultures, the Hellenic culture and its symbols are joining hands with the biblical ones in spite of their differences and dissonances. And although Milton is talking about the biblical Mount Jerusalem, he is inwardly referring to the Hellenic world, Zeus and the 9 muses all as well. So Siloah's brook that flowed fast by the oracle of God, I thence invoke thy aid. So the purpose of invocation is to ask for aid, ask for help, ask for support, ask for the assistance of the supernatural power, the Godhead, the Muse, and to aid the adventurous song. What is the adventurous song here? The adventurous song is the epic itself. An epic, we all know, is long. It has a beginning, it has a middle and an end. And it is not easy to carry out the epic, to come to the completion of the work. So this adventurous song is in need of the aid of the supernatural power. Otherwise, it cannot be hoped for a successful completion. So, invoke thy aid to my adventurous song that with no middle flight intends to soar above the Aeonian mount. The concluding section of Invocation of Paradise Lost are very significant ones. The Aeonian mount that Milton talks about here is Mount Helicon, sacred to the pagan muses, and Milton claims that the Paradise Lost will surpass the classical epics as well. The classical epics like Homer's Iliad, Odyssey, and Tasso, Ariosto's work, Ovid, Virgil's Aeneid, everything will be surpassed in this work, in his Paradise Lost, in his ambitious work. And that is why he's saying that with no middle flight, this work intends to soar above the Ionian Mount while it pursues things unattempted, yet in prose or rhyme. So Paradise Lost begins with the ambition to become something that has not yet been attempted in prose or in rhyme. And who will help the author to complete this task? This spirit, the spirit of God, which is also synonymous to the 9 muses. Chiefly thou, O Spirit, that dost prefer before all temples the upright heart and pure. The pure and upright heart. You see, there is an inversion involved here. The upright heart and pure. It further beautifies the sentence, the line. And the upright heart and pure is the best temple of the Christian, of the follower of God, of the disciple of God. So this spirit, this Godhead, considers this temple, the pure and upright heart, to be the best temple, best church than all churches. And instruct me, for thou knowest, thou from the first wast present. Why Milton chooses this entity? Because this entity was present in the beginning. This entity has the knowledge of the end. This entity is in control and is in knowledge of all of human history. Instruct me, for thou knowest, thou from the first wast present, and with mighty wings outspread dove-like, satest brooding on the vast abyss, and madest it pregnant. Now let us contemplate this section. Mighty wings outspread. God in Genesis is imagined, this image of God as dove who is hatching the egg. God is simultaneously male and female, and mighty wings of this dove brooded on chaos, and from chaos, from darkness, created cosmos, created light, madest it pregnant. So this dichotomy, this dual quality, male and female together, is also assigned to this muse, this invoked entity, God, whom we are calling, what in me is dark, illumine. Give me light, give me knowledge, and what in me is dark, illumine, enlighten me, remove the ignorance, and what is low, raise and support. This is a grand story, this is a noble story, and it requires knowledge, it requires it requires a great vision, a greatness of temper, greatness of a great understanding. So what in me is low, a low mind, a low vision, a low ability will not be able to understand and encompass the whole of the story. What is low, raise and support. So enable, facilitate, raise and support this inadequacy with which a human is starting to write this grand enterprise. So I may assert eternal providence. I may assert eternal providence. Eternal, without a beginning, without end. Providence is foreknowledge. So, and justify the ways of God to men. Justify the ways of God. The ways of the God are far above us, and it requires a deeper and superior quality of understanding. Therefore, to justify the ways of God, one has to rise above. So, justify the ways of God to men, that happens to be the purpose of Paradise Lost. Justifying the ways of God to men is the scheme, the grand enterprise that Milton is undertaking, and that we get to know through the last line of Invocation. And with that, I conclude my lecture on Invocation. Hope you have understood whatever I have said. In case you have any questions, you need any support, you can turn to me and I will be glad to answer your queries. All the best. Thank you.